5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
So, I want to say thank you to all of you guys who came out here on a Friday evening. I'm sure that you guys probably had a lot of other things that you'd want to do than to come listen to the six of us talk. But I really appreciate it. Mick, thank you so much for coming. So that said, we're going to kind of go through some stuff here with you guys. I don't know how many of you know what's going on, so we're going to kind of lay it out for you. And we're going to do it pretty informally, so it's just going to be more of a discussion. Greg, do you have any objections to taking questions when we get through it, or?
Sure.
Okay. From the guests that are here.
What do you want me to do?
I think
talk to me or talk to you?
What I would suggest is that we, conduct what we've prepared to discuss.
Okay.
And then open it up for questions.
Okay.
Afterwards.
Okay.
Would be my suggestion.
Well, we're gonna blow past the election. Obviously, we're not going to elect a committee chairman, vice chairman. We're not going to appoint a secretary because we don't have quorum. So the next item on that would have been to read the minutes from a previous budget committee meeting, and in our packets we all have that. And I included in the packet, the letters that we sent out to the members and stuff like that. But for the sake of expedience, we're gonna go past all of that. So Vince, since you are familiar with it, if you would like to cover those.
What I'd like to do.
You pass that over.
Is it okay if we allow some of these folks in the audience to have that information?
Yeah, I can always make more copies for the other members.
Why don't we pause a minute and let the folks here.
What do you want to handle?
Just what's in there.
Just the whole packet?
Yeah.
I'll save John's copy for you.
We don't have any audio visual stuff here, so
right.
I think it's anybody that doesn't want. If you want to leave it and bring it, look at it and then bring it back. Yeah, when you're done, at least we can have that. So.
I didn't know who all was. I had a feeling, but I didn't know for sure who all was not going to be here. So I thought, well, I'll make it for everybody then.
Can I have those notes?
Save that one.
Yes, y'all should give it to her.
Oh yeah.
Can I have the? So.
What was your name again? What was your name again?
My name?
Yeah.
Okay. What I'm going to cover here is we do not have an official meeting, but I think it's important that we look at the history of the Budget Committee over the last couple of years or 3 years and see what's been done and has not been done. And in that regard, I'm going to ask everybody to look at the section called
it's the
OKGOP
last section in that packet,
okay.
And then it'll be the last few pages.
Big thick one.
Right, the big thick one. Now, I asked to be the one that presents this part because I actually attended 2 of these meetings myself. And we also have in the room the gentleman that was the treasurer for part of that time as well. I'm going to, there's a lot in here, but I think the salient issues that we will be facing are the same issues that were faced by the Budget Committee back in 2021. They were discussing and facing the same challenges with the administration at that time. They were casting about for their role and their authorities as opposed to the chairman's role and authorities. And I think it's very instructional to read these minutes. I've highlighted a few portions. Chairman Beffer, who's Joe Beffer, from Washington County at the time as the chairman.
Vince, we're looking at the November 22nd, right?
Right now I'm looking at the first one in August.
August 31st? Okay.
The August 31st.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, and I'm gonna go through this. If I can get this done in 5 minutes, bear with me. Chairman Beffer advised that this was the first meeting in the Budget Committee, and there were not any previous minutes to approve or review. Now, that right there indicates that the process of budget committees has been a hit and miss proposition for quite a while in this party, okay? So just take note of that. Much discussion and questions developed regarding a budget item regarding Project 46. And the Project 46 was a technology project that the party had signed a contract or had an agreement with a person to provide digital services in the amount of $4,000 per month. And those amounts had been paid pursuant to approval later by the Budget Committee. The Budget Committee wanted to know the scope of work that was being provided for $4,000 a month. And they felt they had purview over knowing what the scope of work would be. And they also wanted to see the contract if one existed, a written contract. A motion was made by Steve Curry to approve an operating budget at that meeting with a caveat that related to this Project 46 scope of work. And they did approve a $4,000 line item, but they demanded that the administration come forth with the details, the scope of work, and the contract for the Budget Committee to review. They also authorized a $1,500 stipend for the chairman for his travel expenses. I noted here that when you get down to about two-thirds of the way here, the Budget Committee got themselves involved in the banking situation. They were involved in who gets credit cards, who can sign on the bank accounts. And you see here that the committee voted to amend certain and add or detract certain people that were authorized to use credit cards. Now, that's something that has not been discussed among our group before. But the banking of the party currently is outside the purview of this committee, and we need to decide if we want to bring it within the purview of this committee. Okay? So the end of that first meeting, they highlighted three things. They wanted to see scope of work and contract for Project 46. They wanted to consider standard operating procedures for financing the party. And they wanted to review the Finance Committee's goals for fundraising. Now, I want to highlight the Finance Committee's situation. It has been said that Budget Committee cannot meet until we have revenue projections.
That was the discussion that I had with Nathan. We kept going round and round, and he kept asking me the purpose of having this meeting.
And that was also stated to me by another official of the party. This committee held Budget Committee meetings before getting Finance Committee revenue projections. To me, that's precedent for getting on with business, and it's been 4 months since we had an election of officers. Okay, I'm going to move on to the November.
Isn't there a time lapse between the election and when the Budget Committee is supposed to meet?
No,
It says reasonable time.
No determination on date or time. It's just reasonable time after the convention is over.
The committee is supposed to be formed within 60 days of the
that's the number
of the state convention, which CD2 That whole thing, that whole fiasco, but
Well,
anyways.
I mean, I think you can still consider that the committee is not fully formed since the other two appointees have never been named. So
Officially,
we're
at least not
actually
officially.
Outside of that, we're outside violating that,
Right.
that rule as well.
Well, and that said, with any committee, you can have vacancies that can be filled after the fact. So, technically speaking, the committee was formed.
I think there is a requirement,
Already.
am I correct in saying that in the rules, there's a requirement that the finance committee is supposed to start meeting within 60 days?
Maybe that's what I read.
Okay, we'll move on from that.
I have a question.
Yes,
When was the state convention?
May the 6th was when the chairman was elected.
Was it 5th and 6th? Or
4th and 5th.
4th and 5th, yeah.
Okay, moving on to, and I'll breeze through this as quickly as I can. November the 9th, they reconvened the budget committee meeting with a quorum, and one thing of note here is that they were using an e-vote system, which I'm not familiar with how that was working, but I'm not sure if they were remote on that or not. But I was not present at that meeting. The treasurer, the OKGOP treasurer, did provide a detailed treasury report. Leon Ferris led the discussion, continuing to say that we had not hit any details on the Project 46. And the treasurer at the time stated that Project 46 had been canceled. And so I want to point out that the Bennett administration did adhere to the Budget Committee's demands to either provide the details of this contract or terminate the contract. So I think that's a really important point. The respect was given to the Budget Committee by the Bennett administration.
That's good.
Okay. Now, there was a lot of more, they kept discussing in detail the Project 46, back and forth. I think it's interesting that you get further into this and you start seeing the discussion between the budget committee members as to how far down a budget committee is to micromanage what happens with the money. And the more you read this, the more you get the sense that the budget committee felt their job was to approve primary line item expenses. So in other words, if you're paying rent, it's $1,000 a month, that's $1,000. If your heat and air system is costing you $400 dollars or $300 a month, you budget that number. Okay, so they got twisted around quite a bit discussing how far down in the weeds they should get, and they didn't want to tie the chairman's hands with minutia,
Right.
but they did want to control the line items that were being approved or disapproved by the budget committee. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Now, Leon Ferris stated during this meeting that they still had not seen a revenue side, had still not gotten the revenue projections. And we're looking at November 9th, and the convention was held in April or May. So we're talking about several months where they still had no revenue projections. But they're still trying to do budgeting. Make sense?
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, even without the money, you still need to know what your expenses are.
Yes.
Right. That's right. So I'm skipping through to November the 22nd. This is where they started getting into some of the line items, and what we've attempted to do for everybody is there's a piece of paper in it's a one-page deal, and it basically says the financial operations during the John Bennett administration. Everybody see that?
It's
Now-
got the date 8/26/23 at the top, but that
Right,
was
that's correct. It has-
that was the date that
right.
this page was created,
So-
but it's from the
Now,
Bennett.
this information was taken from notes that I personally made at that meeting. They had a budget up on the screen, but no budget, no line item budget was ever printed and made a part of these minutes.
Right.
Therefore, we do not have the specific approved budget, but there was one. And so what I tried to do is go back and recapture from notes what the initial line items were. Now, why are we doing this? Because I assert that our job primarily is to budget for recurring expenses plus any additional unexpected expenses, okay? So these can be considered at the time, the online bookkeeping, the office, the digital, et cetera. The Project 46 was on that budget initially at $4,000 a month. So you can see that the operating budget was roughly $13,000 that was actually approved. They actually approved a little more than that. But I was hoping this would give us a start as a base point to see what items we should be looking at in budget. And I know some of the numbers have changed. I will also point out very quickly that the Bennett administration, over a 10-month period, it was reported that they had averaged monthly income of $14,700, and the total monthly average expenses was $12,700. And once the Project 46 was removed from the budget, then the average went down to $10,340. So it took about $10,000 subsequent to that to run the state park. Some of these line items are different now. So I hope that helps at least get the discussion started on what it takes to run the GOP on a monthly basis.
This was the last
That was the last
budget committee meeting that has happened
That was the last
prior to
time.
today.
That was in November.
November 22nd of 2021.
And then when the new administration come in the spring,
Well,
they didn't.
Then Roddy took over,
right.
and there's been no budget committee meetings since then, as far as I know. If anybody knows this, please correct me.
When did AJ come in?
In the spring, wasn't it?
Do what?
When did AJ come in?
I was at that meeting.
May 21st of 2022.
Okay.
Thus ends the reading of the minutes.
Actually, it was, now, so the point is, now how about the executive or finance committee? Have they met at all?
To my knowledge, and the text messages back and forth with Bill Martin, they haven't come together either. I had a phone call with Nathan finally last Friday, and as of that phone call, they had not. And then full transparency for everyone here. We called this meeting together. We sent out the call on August 12th. Yesterday at 5:46 p.m., we all, except for Mike for some reason, received an email from Chairman Don basically saying that this meeting was illegitimate and that he, pursuant to the same rule that I cited in the call that we made, is calling a budget committee meeting for October the 7th. With just that date, no location,
Location to be determined, et cetera.
Time.
No time listed at all.
and it was only him. No one else signed on to this meeting call with him. And for those of you who read through the packet, according to the way we read the rules, he's not the acting chair of this committee. So, just wanted to let you guys know that because I forgot to bring it up at the beginning. So, anyways.
That I'm finished with that portion. So you can turn it back to you to
Okay.
continue with the,
Well, and that was the argument that I had this whole time, was that, if we're going to be a budget committee, we need to know what are the absolute must-have expenses, rent, things like that, but what are we contractually obligated? What are the things that we really, really, really want to do? And then what are the things that we would really like to do, but if we can't right now, then that's fine. And just having that, then we have a target as to how much revenue we need to raise every month to keep this place operational. And that's pretty much it. And we keep getting told that there's no point to have a budget committee meeting until we have the finances in order, our fundraising in order.
But we still have money going out every month with no accountability whatsoever.
No projection of income, but plenty of expenses
Right.
unaccounted for.
And the main thing among the expenses is because the budget committee had not voted, we've been sending out expenses that the budget committee had no input. And that's not according to what we have. One person cannot decide we're going to spend so, and I don't care who it is, right, left, up, down, it doesn't matter. You work with the group. The weakness of Oklahoma right here, I've seen the last 3 years, we don't give a flip until we do. And we've been letting the executive committee not do their job, the finance committee not do their job, the budget committee not do their job, the heads of the GOP, the state, wherever you're in charge of. If you read this book, which I guarantee you most of the people involved in our Republican Party has never read it. We violate it all the time. Where I'm from, when I first got involved, I read it. I wanted to know, what is the OKGOP all about? And I called every head of Republicans in our area, and they go, we don't do that. There's only 3 of us, and we run everything. I said, well, I want to be involved. So Jackson County, and by the way, some of the most influential people are in that area. I live with them even. And for the first year, my name was Mud, because I brought 50 people in to their 8 folks, and we voted a whole new group in. And I was enemy number 1, and I wasn't trying to do anything. I thought the whole objective of our party was to get people involved.
Yes.
So for the first 2 years, I'm talking, I had the mayor of the town, the council of the town, every GOP, bigwig, people that used to be the head of the GOP that live in Altus. My name was Mutt. And I had a wall to hit, but I just kept plugging away. Right now we have over 135 people that are involved, some really involved, some part-time involved. But it's still every other county around us. 3 people run everything. That's not what our bylaws state. And it's not just in our area, it's in every area of the state. We do not get people involved because, and this is what I was told numerous times, the more people that's involved, the messier it is. I said, I know, but that's the way it's supposed to be. But they don't know what they're doing. I know, but that's the way it's supposed to be. And it's this way all the way up. It's this way. So now we're on the budget committee. Ooh, I love my name on the budget committee. I got a name. See, I'm on here, right here. But if I'm not doing anything, why am I here? And that's my biggest thing. And every organization I've been a part of, it's the same thing. I've done a lot of issues with businesses and groups that are fighting, and I come in and I read the thing, and all it comes down to is one thing. They never followed what they said they would do. And it's a mess. We're not here to fight. We're not here to point. We're here to say, GOP, we're here for you. We answer to you people, okay? We answer to the everyday ordinary person. Tell us, like the last 2 state committee meetings, one little piece of paper one time, and the next time there was nothing. And that's wrong, because it's your money, it represents you, and that's kind of where I'm at and what I want to do. We're not here to fight, we're here to help.
Yes.
And so, it might come out some way, but if attempt to read this, you'll find that the budget committee that we're doing, what tonight is, it's what we were supposed to do. We have a right to do it.
Yes.
It doesn't matter if somebody over somewhere else said we don't. That's nice, but we still have a right to do it.
Not just a right, but a responsibility.
Yes, we were duty bound and obligated
right,
to do
and
this.
that's all it is. I don't have a dog in the hunt. I don't have an issue with this. I just want to help our state and be a part of it. And I just think that that's why we're here. As long as we keep that focus, right will follow us. But here's the thing is, most state committeemen have not read this thing. I guarantee, I'm talking at the last state committee meeting, I'm over here, and I'm talking to people. They had no idea of anything. That's our problem. We like the title. We just don't want the responsibility. All right? That's my opinion.
I will say,
Yes.
Hang on, this lady
Are
over
we
here
at
in
the
front
point
has a
where
question.
we're each now gonna say whatever we need to say on
I already
3
said
minutes?
Hang on just a second, this lady in the front row has a
yeah. Let's let her answer.
Well, I thought we were gonna hold questions until later.
Well, we could do that. Can you hold your question until we?
Can you write it down? Okay.
Okay. And that said, if you want to go next.
All I'm going to say, I've already spoken a lot. What I'm going to say is that I think the big picture here we all understand is whether the chairman feels that this is the chairman's money to do with as they wish, or whether it's the state committee's money to budget and control. I think some chairmen, if they bring a lot of money in the party through contacts that they have in D.C. or, in the state, they almost feel like that the money wouldn't have been here if they hadn't gone out and gotten it, and therefore they're going to spend it the way they want to spend it. Does that make sense? I think that what may have been happening in a previous administration. And the one before John Bennett, I think that could have been happening as well. So it gets to the point where when there's no resistance from a budget committee or a state committee, the chairman just basically takes executive power,
Yes.
which is not in any of the rules of this party that there's an executive. There's no executive in the GOP.
There's none.
That they take executive authority to call committee meetings or not call committee meetings, to say you can do this or you can't do that, tell the state treasurer when he can or cannot make a report at a state committee meeting in detail, and that becomes the standard if the folks don't stand up and say, no, we have rules and we're going to follow them.
That's right.
So there's the rub. And one more thing I'll say. It's up to all of us in this room and everybody in the state of Oklahoma that's a good Republican to support the Republican Party financially.
Yeah.
Once they get transparency on how the money is spent. Okay? We all should be contributing to the party. It's our responsibility to do that. We want transparency, and then it becomes our money because we've got a dog in the fight. Okay? So, that's into my tirade. Go ahead.
My turn? Your
Your turn, sir.
So be patient with me here. I'm going to read from our rules. So I'm addressing who is the supreme authority of our party. All right? And this is Rule 10A. I'm sorry, 10B.
What page is that on?
Oh, I'm sorry, page 13. So let's see what the rules say about who has the authority in our party. Authority and duties, Rule 10B. The state committee is the supreme Republican Party authority of the state Republican Party. If you look up the definition of supreme, it means ultimate, final. Those are the definitions of supreme. It does not give that term to anyone else but the state committee. Oh, the state convention also. The state convention would be supreme as well. but the Supreme Republican Committee is the supreme entity, subject to these rules and the direction and the control of the state convention. And there you go. It's the state committee is actually under the state convention. It is charged with and all this is saying is it comes back to the power of the people who rule. If you look at a hierarchical chart, it's we, the voter, we, the people. We are the supreme authority. They go to the state convention, and in the state convention, through the county, each county, they elect 4 individuals to represent them at the state committee. And so there's a tier effect. But ultimately, us, we the people, are the authority. But then it goes down to the state committee, so I go on. Promoting the welfare and the direction, controlling the affairs of the Oklahoma Republican Party and the Oklahoma State Republican Convention, and in promoting the welfare of the Republican Party of the United States of America. The state committee shall meet immediately preceding any state convention and receive the report and the recommendations of the state executive committee for the purpose of establishing the organization of the state convention, and shall be considered the same, and shall therefore or thereafter make it a report and recommendations to the state convention. So the executive committee is all it is an advisory committee. So when we're talking about authority, though, whoever has the authority to remove has authority. That's the ultimate authority. And this is hypothetical. Suppose we want to remove a certain individual. Say they want to remove me, for example. Whoever has the authority to do that has the true authority. That's your state committee. That's your state convention. So the removal power is the ultimate power. And I want to make that clear, so we're clear on who has the authority in our party. And that's the state convention, that's the state committee, but ultimately it goes back to us, the people. So we're a bottom-up party, we're not a top-down party. Thanks, sir. Those are my comments.
I'm glad we're recording this because my notes would not be very good, but you're making good statements there. I may want this recording for the minutes.
Well, kind of like what Wayne just said, the org chart that we're typically used to seeing, you're used to seeing, here's the chair, and here, so on and so forth. But our good friend Sarah Burnett, she's been showing us that is supposed to be inverted. The precincts are the top.
Yes.
The precincts dictate the county dictates the state dictates the national committee. Okay? So, like he said, that the state committee is the supreme authority of the state. The county committee is the supreme authority of the county. So, if there's something going on in the county, it's up to the county committee to take care of that. So, that said, I want to say that I've spent a lot of time praying for, right here, for some wisdom and that we're doing the right thing, what we're supposed to do. And, Greg was talking a minute ago about, not looking for a fight, but at the same time, I'm 100% committed to fighting the fights that need to be fought. And I am very honored to sit among my fellow committee members here, and I guarantee you that the 6 of us will not be a rubber stamp committee for whatever it is that the state chairman and the state treasurer want to do. And I'm not saying that we'll always disagree with them. We're not here to fight. But we're here to be responsible and to fulfill the duties that we were elected or appointed to do. So that's why we're here.
Can I say one more thing? Please allow me to say one more thing. Just like our founding documents give the authority to the people, the Declaration of Independence says governed by the consent of the governed. They get their just authority from the consent of the governed. The Constitution says that as well. We the people of these United States. We're emulating what they do. So our purpose is to give you back, the state committee, the voter, the precinct participant, the power, the authority. We want to take away from the hierarchical top, and I personally, being vice chairman of the Oklahoma Republican Party, I submit to the state convention and I submit to the state committee. Those are my authorities within the Republican Party. And so I just want to make it clear, I'm under their authority as vice chair of the Oklahoma Republican Party, and I should be answering to them and no one else.
If you want to know what our authority or responsibilities are, page 2. 1, authority and duties. You can just kind of read that paragraph and have 2 paragraphs there. And this was one of the biggest things when I got involved in this, I had to read it. Am I doing anything that violates this? And I'm not. So I just want you to understand, this is why we're here. We're fulfilling this. And this only. We can't do anything else, but we can do this. So page 2, 1, as they're talking, just got to read that and it might help you out.
Sure.
What I'm going to say is simple. If in your household you have a husband, a wife, and kids, if one person, whether it's the husband or the wife or even the kids, is making all the decisions, spending all the money, and not being accountable to anybody else in the household, would you not consider that abusive? I will not sit by and watch any person or any committee abuse the citizens of the state of Oklahoma's Republican Party. We are accountable to you guys for your money that you have spent and donated to the party. We are accountable for the money that's spent, even if it comes from Mark Wayne Mullen or James Langford. Not that I really want to see any money come from either one of those, but that's totally here nor there. Their money comes in handy. So, when the money comes in, we need to know where it's going. But we don't need to know after the fact. We need to know where it needs to be spent to begin with. If we have rent, utilities, other item costs in that state office, then we need to know what those are. We need to know who approved them. And then we need to know where we're going to find the money to pay them. If it's just being paid and we're paying somebody over here for the rent, somebody over here for the utilities, but we have no documentation that that's the person who owns the building that we're paying the rent on, or this is the person who actually provides the utilities we're paying, then we have a problem. If we have someone working in that office who's collecting a salary that's never been approved by anyone, let alone the state budget committee, we have a problem. We need to know exactly where all the money is going every month. Make sure that it's something we can all agree is relevant, necessary, and needful. And then once the finance committee comes up with where that money is coming from, then we've already done our part. We can sit back and wait until new expenses come up. New expenses come up, they are run by the budget committee. We agree or disagree as to the necessity of those expenses. Then again, we go on our merry way. But if we're sitting at home and nothing is happening and nobody's talking to anyone, we are abusing the citizens, the Republicans in the state, and I won't sit by and see it.
Well,
I'm sorry you're last.
It's kind of bad to be last. It seems like everything's been said, but as Cheryl was talking, I was thinking about a meeting at either the county or city, one of them, and they go through a budgeting process, the same as anybody else does, and all their departments have to submit budget requests as this is the money that we need to run our department, whether it be personnel, office supplies, utilities, whatever the case may be. new cell phones because the officer dropped his or whatever. So they have to submit those budget requests yearly. Well, I would presume to think that a committee running the state GOP would do the same, right? I don't know if I necessarily think I have to approve every single thing that's spent, but there needs to be a category with a budget attached to it. Utilities for the year is $8,000, whatever, right? If somewhere during the year we realize that we're going to go over that amount, then it's up to the budgets committee to say, hey, over here in office supplies, could you guys cut back a little bit on your printing so we can pay the light bill because we didn't put enough money in that bucket, and we need to take some of your money to put back in that bucket. Or, hey, Mr. Chairman, can you bring some phones and get us some more money? I mean, that's the way it's supposed to work, right? As I understood, the chairman's role, number one role is fundraise. Number two role is to champion the meetings as a host, almost like a host, as a facilitator, better word, facilitator, and certainly not one that's going to dictate his or her preferences onto the body, right? If you were at the last state committee like I was at, I was a visitor and I was about to jump off the balcony because I was like, what is going on here? I was astounded at the amount of items that the chairman decided we were moving forward on his decision and not the body's decision, right? So that's kind of where I really got involved and said, I want to be a part of fixing this because $200,000 can buy a lot of stuff and we can do a lot of grassroots engagement with voters with that money as opposed to just arbitrarily spending it on this or that or that or this, right? So that's really my driving factor. Transparency, like I said at the beginning, but we have to know where the money's going. And if no one ever sends any reports, I was just looking through this rule some more about the finance committee, the treasurer, and you know that any one of us, anybody on the committee can demand a report from the treasurer and the finance committee, and they're supposed to provide it.
I did that.
Even as an individual, I don't have to wait for the committee to get together. I can call John Elliott tomorrow and say, hey, John, can I get the P&L from last month?
No,
He is
you
supposed to report it to me. But yet, we've asked for materials
In writing,
and I've got nothing.
and was told that not only that, but he told me that he wouldn't give it to me until he was told that he could.
Well, I think that's, I mean, if you were to say that to me, I think I would call him on the carpet. That's a violation of his roles and responsibilities in the state rule book, and I would throw that at him in a heartbeat and let him know that I'm going to hold him accountable. If I have a way, a time and a place to make that known to all peoples that the treasurer refused to report to the state budget committee the actual P&L of income and expenses for any given month.
He did say that he was basically he started off with no information and was trying to create from scratch new.
Yes.
So the initial thing that I asked him for historical information. He said, I can't give you that because I don't have it. So then I asked, well, okay, will you give me what you do have? And he told me no.
Yeah. Well, he's been in office since
Because
May,
he was still working on it and he wasn't going to give it to me until he was told that he could.
I'd like to,
I have a I'll
I'd just like to let you know what the process is, if you've read that part. Our job is not to tell you what we're spending. According to what I understand, if y'all correct me if I'm wrong, the budget committee will meet, we check and evaluate everything, we recommend, and then we bring it to the state committee and you vote for it.
right.
We don't vote for the budget. Right now, there's thousands of dollars going out every month that there was not a vote. The state committee, I've been on the state committee for 3 years, I never voted on anything. So,
I'm not sure about that since it says that all expenditures are done so with the advice and consent.
yes, but
of
then after
us.
that, it says here, it says including procedure required for recommendations to the state committee of amounts to be included in the budget. That means when there's an expenditure, you bring it before the state. It's like that, again, where the head, the people who are the authority is the state committee. And that's what I'm reading. That's what I've been noticing. Now, if I'm wrong on it, but I believe the state committee, according to what I'm reading, and some scholar are going to have to correct me there.
Real quick on page.
Now, our consent is here. Yes, we get the budget committee to say, okay, we have to agree, but after that, it goes before the state. As far as I know. If I'm wrong, but I believe that's what we're doing.
Page 16 of our rules. Under duties of state treasurer, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines down. The accounts of the treasurer shall be accessible at all times to the state chairman and vice chairman or any member of the state finance or budget committees or any representative of any said officers or committees duly authorized in writing by such officer or committee. So that means to me that any of us can ask for this information at any time, and as long as we submit it in writing, it should be provided to us. So I'll just leave it at that. Now, one thing I want to say, go ahead.
No, Joe, please continue.
And I'm sorry I should have included this. Real quick, just show of hands. How many of you guys have ever... I didn't grow up wealthy, okay? My dad worked at a refinery. We pretty modest. How many of you guys have ever had a utility shut off?
A what?
A utility
shut
shut
off.
off for non-payment. Okay? So I'm looking at this as a whole, and I'm thinking, here we are, and our party, we're fortunate that we had a little bit of money in savings. But the fundraising has dried up, which is kind of like getting laid off from your job. Okay? So you get laid off from your job, and you've got a finite amount of money sitting in the bank to pay your bills. What is the first thing that you do? You start looking at things that you can cut, even if it's temporarily, to save, to kick the can down the road as far as you can until you can get back to work, i.e. raise money. So we have expenses going out the door every month right now to the tune of like $10,000 to $12,000. There's roughly 2 months worth of funds available. And I can promise you, there are things that we're spending money on that if the chair and the treasurer want to continue spending money on them, that's fine, but that's what this committee's for. But hey, if we can, temporarily, let's cut that off and let's try to conserve as much as we can until we get the fundraising in order. So I just wanted to throw that in there. So.
I'd like to put a little bit more facts on the table if we're finished with that part.
Okay.
And I'd like to ask that we skip the break.
Okay.
And just continue. So for time purposes, because we got Altus, Oklahoma here, we got Bonita, Oklahoma over here.
Yep.
So a couple of things that we prepared for this meeting. There's no treasurer's report. So what we tried to do is give something akin to a treasurer's report. And I want to call your attention to, actually, that's not the one, but here's what I want to show you. Any person, anybody, that has a computer can go on the Federal Election Commission website.
Yes, it's important.
Anybody, any of you want to know how much money the party spent on salaries in 2005? It's there.
Tell them what to
Everything.
look for. What to look for, though.
Every detail. It's and we pay money to Red Curve, the name of the organization, to do our online filing for us. Anybody can find this report. Now, this report, we took this and we broke it down into little pieces. Yeah, go ahead and take that.
Vince, can you tell people what to search for on the FEC?
Okay, the name of our organization for filing purposes is the Oklahoma Leadership Council. The Oklahoma Leadership Council. If you can do that, you find the FEC homepage, it goes to, you drop down to campaign data, which doesn't really make sense. Then you go to committees, and eventually you get to a page where it says, the Oklahoma Leadership Council. That's who we are. And from the Oklahoma Leadership Council, this is a report on the FEC website. This is 1 month of expenses. And the reason we did this is because it gives us an idea of what the party spent in the month of July of this year. Now, it's obvious to me that some of these expenses were non-recurring expenses. In other words, they were unusual. They were outside the normal scope of month-to-month expenses. So we spent $16,246 in July. There's different schedules. Schedule B has certain things on it. We are paying $3,500 a month, and the way it's reported is for political strategy consulting to a gentleman by the name of Josh Kraft for political strategy consulting. Here are the disbursements that have been made over the last since Mr. Kraft came on. There's a detail, you can go into the report, it actually shows every check that was written. I will note that for budgeting purposes, normally the amount is $3,500. However, in the month of December, the amount was $9,000. And in the month of April, the amount was $7,000. Okay? Now, you can't really budget $3,500 and then have a $9,000 month and a $7,000 month. That's not a budgetable item. But those are, and if you look at that report, it starts with the most recent period and works backward. So that's what that says. Now,
Vince, one quick question.
I will also note, yes, sir.
Sorry, one quick question.
Right.
Was there another similar expense to this in December of last year?
That's what he said, 9,000.
No. Similar, not the same.
I was only looking at that particular line item, so what are you asking specifically?
Wasn't there a $1,000 payment?
There was a $1,000 amount that was given to the state treasurer.
Okay. Now,
Was Josh's title something different in the office?
Josh's title in the office, and he's reputed to be and reported to be an executive director. Now, let's talk about executive directors for a minute. Executive directors have come and gone out of the Republican Party for a number of years. We had an executive director, and that was an unpaid position, and that person served for 6 months and then thought he had done enough and he left. There's been a move afoot among some counties to actually codify the role of an executive director in the OKGOP rule book, actually put an executive director in there as part of the rules. The convention would have had a vote on that back in May, but those that were in charge of running that particular request decided to withdraw that. Now, there could only be 2 reasons for it. A, they knew it was going to fail, which it would have. I can promise you, it would have failed. Or B, they already had an executive director and they didn't want to make an issue of it. Those are the only 2 things I can think of about why they would have withdrawn that, but it was on the agenda for a potential vote.
Now, the only issue that I have on that, because the FEC it doesn't mention executive director. That's a paid employee. He's advisory in the FEC. To me, that's a problem.
He's a 1099 contract.
Yes, that's a problem, because an executive person is a paid position to do that, not advisory. You can't to the FEC say advisory, and then in the GOP say executive committee. And then where is that, since it's not in the bylaws, where does he fall? Does he fall above everybody? Does he fall below the chairman, vice chairman? Does he fall in the middle of those guys? Because that's where the problem is. And he wasn't voted on by the state committee. That's another thing.
And do we have a contract?
And we have no contract.
I had a follow-up on that
Yes, sure.
last thing. So that $1,000 that Treasurer Elliott paid himself,
Yes.
was that for reimbursement for something? Or what, do you have any idea what it was for?
No.
Okay, so you're telling me that a member of the budget committee authorized a $1,000 check to himself without the advice and consent of the budget committee?
I think personally, the head, AJ, is giving a
Bonus? Christmas bonus?
Christmas bonus to him, and I think it went through AJ.
Okay.
I don't think.
And that could,
Yes,
I wasn't trying to accuse.
Right. I don't.
Sorry, I'm sorry, I hope it didn't come across that I was trying to accuse anybody.
So,
But
I'm
it
just saying.
still should have went through the budget committee.
well, the last thing I'll say is, so that one-page summary I gave you guys, and again, let's get back to what we're trying to do here is find out what the line items are that are budgetable and recurring. And that's my attempt to give you that.
Okay.
I will also note, and the last thing I'll say on the subject is that the year-to-date report that I have from the FEC indicates that we started the year cash on hand with $59,695. I know that some money has been transferred. We have a state account, and some money has been transferred from the state account at some point to bolster the federal account. And the amount that's being reported at the end of July on hand was $23,999. So $24,000. So when Joe Vaden says we've got about 2 months left, that's what he's talking about.
It's even a little less than that. The assistant treasurer said there's 15,000 left, right?
The last state filing said 15,000, the last FEC filing is, hold on, I gotta pull the different area spreadsheet.
I have some questions on some of these lines.
She has all the information right there. That's awesome.
Yeah, Teresa's been waiting a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Ending cash on hand, $23,992.58.
how much?
$23,992.58 is with the FEC filings. With the state filings, the second quarter filings, we have $15,940.31.
That's good.
Okay, so the bottom line of my report is anybody can get this information that wants it.
As long as I know what to look for.
Okay, just go look for it. Are we informally adjourned?
Yeah, I think that's it.